So down 112, Donegal 225 at Pairc Esler. Donegal have ran out comfortable 16-point winners over Down in this preliminary round, of course, in the Ulster Senior Football Championship. Donegal, in the end, have won this game very, very comfortably indeed. I don't think anyone really realistically thought that Down would ever win this game, let's be perfectly honest. I think we all knew Donegal would come through the threat of Down. Down of... They've stayed in Division 2, fair play to them. They won. They obviously got that win over Laois. Of course, in the relegation playoff, of course, a big win. They beat Westmeath, of course, as well. But Donegal are just different gravy. And unfortunately for Down, they really did show, unfortunately, that in this game in particular, that they just weren't up to the same standard as the likes of your Donegals and some of the other teams in Ulster as well. And Donegal were just too efficient, in particular, in the first half. Scoring 16, I think they created 18 chances in the first half and, scored, I think, 115 in the first half. So 15 points and 1 goal from 18 scoring chances, which shows how efficient they were. And I thought Donegal in the first half in particular were just brilliant. Probably one of the best teams in the country at kicking points from distance, kicking points from 30 or 40 meters. They were just really, really impressive. And yeah, of course, as always, this is the match reaction. So, do let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the game. And, of course, I'll read out some comments here live on stream, as always, as well. Down in particular, I was a bit disappointed with Down today. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I never felt like they really... Look, listen, I know they're not of the same quality as Donegal. Donegal are, probably, top 5, top 6 in the country. They're definitely in there. Whether you put them 3 or 4 is debatable. But Down just, for a team that's set up defensively, for a team that gets men behind the ball, they don't really do a great job of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's too many silly defensive errors in there, losing their heads at different point. Jared McGovern with that sending off in the second half is really, really foolish. The goal that they conceded as well was just such a basic error, like a kick out. And Jamie Brennan, it's a loose kick out. Jamie Brennan pounces on it. Yes, he took about 12 steps. It definitely shouldn't have been given. But we've seen this a number of times in Gaelic football, unfortunately, in the past, for as long as I can remember, really, where for whatever reason, when players are in that attacking position about to score a goal, the referee doesn't call it back for steps. So it's a strange one, but it was a defensive error from Down in that essence. And I think there was one stage as well where I think it was Niall O'Donnell was left completely free about 20 yards in front of goal. No one putting any pressure on him whatsoever. He literally could have sat down and read a book if he wanted to. None of the Down lads weren't going near him, and that's the basics really in Gaelic football. You're taught that really from a young age. You can't leave a man just 20 yards free, no one picking him up whatsoever, everyone looking around at each other to do something. So that was poor from Down. GAA lad says here, Down did well to get shots on goal, but Donegal took it away in the end, just like we saw Kerry do yesterday. Yeah, familiar team really with yesterday. Don't think Donegal were ever, kicked into, their absolute best. I think they can certainly still stepping up a notch. But certainly towards the end of the game, you could see as the game went on, Down had to take more risks. They had to take more chances. And to be fair to Down, like there were some small positives. Barry O'Hagan, I thought, was phenomenal in this game. Like what a talent he was. Very, very impressive player. Very quick, with the ball in his hands, turning left or right. Very good at creating that extra yard of space. Took his points brilliantly at times in the first half. And whilst the likes of Corey Quinn had a brilliant league, I don't think he scored in this game at all. He might have scored towards the end of the game. So I thought that was a little bit disappointing, I'm sure, from Corey Quinn's point of view. And from a Down point of view in general. But Barry O'Hagan was brilliant, no doubt about it. Interesting, of course, that Michael Murphy started this game. Going to be honest, I was very surprised that he started this game because, with a hamstring injury in particular, I've had a few hamstring injuries in my time playing football and playing other sports. It's such an annoying injury because you can get it really bad and then you can be fit again. You go out on the pitch, you move the wrong way, you get injured, you're gone again for another 4 to 5 weeks. And I just really felt that with Donegal in particular, they don't need Michael Murphy for this game. I think they were always going to win this game without him, and the Derry game, look, listen, if Donegal can't beat Derry without Michael Murphy, I think Donegal have much bigger problems then, in my opinion. I know Derry have done very, very well, but Donegal should still come through that game even without Murphy. So I think Murphy should have been saved maybe to come off the bench in the Derry game, maybe being saved for Tyrone or potentially Ulster final and so on. The fact he started in this game, I was a little bit surprised. because you're always running the risk that he might, pick up another injury somewhere along the way and then potentially be ruled out now for the rest of the Ulster Championship and potentially maybe on and above into All-Ireland semis and so on. We don't really know that, it is a hamstring injury. I think he had the ice pack on his thigh as well. So we'll see what happens there. But it is one of them things, unfortunately, that, it's a reoccurring injury. So we'll see what happens there. Ryan McHugh, man of the match for me for Donegal. Fantastic at getting forward from wing back. Kicked 3 points, I think, in total in the game. Was absolutely brilliant at getting forward. There was one stage as well where it looked like he might have actually had an injury. I think they were saying that in commentary. Didn't get a clear enough view of it, to be perfectly honest, to see if there was an injury there. But that's definitely something worth considering. So definitely some dodgy refereeing in this game as well, in my opinion. Numerous occasions where the referee didn't let the game flow, called frees in situations where there shouldn't have been frees. I remember he gave Paddy McBirthy a free in front of Down's goal at one stage. It was never a free, in my opinion. Brilliant defending there from Down. Obviously, the goal shouldn't have stood. He was stumbling, wasn't being fouled, so referee should have called it back. But we've seen this, unfortunately. We've seen what Owen Merchant's goal against Kerry, although I still kind of believe he was partly fouled during that exchange, but I suppose that's a debate for another day. But we've seen it with a number of goals, even Owen Mulligan's goal, that brilliant goal he scored against the Dublin back in, 2005. He took too many steps, but it's one of them things where, the referees just don't seem to call it back, and umpires don't either. It's kind of one of those weird rules within Gaelic football. One of those rules that's there but never gets acted upon, especially in goal scoring situations. Limo 345 there says, do you think Donegal would trouble Kerry if both get through their provincial championships? Definitely think they're the one team in Ulster that could give Kerry most of their problems. But one thing that would worry me a bit about Donegal is even in the second half there, at the start of the second half, you've seen Down kind of changed up their style a bit more. They were playing on the front foot. They were trying to get men forward. They were, they had overlapping runs, and obviously Caelan Mooney got forward and got that goal, slotting a past Sean Patton. I think Barry O'Hagan had 1 or 2 goal chances as well. He had that chance at the end where Sean Patton had to fist it away. I can't remember who it was now, one of the Down players in the square. I think it might have been McGuinness maybe. But yeah, that was one of them situations where Donegal looked a little bit vulnerable at the back. And could you imagine Clifford and all those lads running at that Donegal team? Now, I'm sure Donegal would set up differently. I think they were caught a little bit by surprise by Down at the start of the second half, because we haven't really seen Down play like that all year. And obviously, because their championship was, being close to being over, they obviously realised they had to give it a go. And it's a shame they didn't do that in the first half, because, we might have had a bit more of a closer game, a bit of a better game maybe. And like I said before, Down setting up defensively under Paddy Tally and can't even do the basics. And if you can't even do the basics, you have to ask yourself, like, what are you even doing? Do you know what I mean? Why are you playing that way? You might as well play on the front foot. You've got brilliant players there like Barry O'Hagan, and, Corey Quinn's good on his day. Caelan Mooney's obviously former AFL player, very, very talented footballer. We've seen that with his goal. And there's good players in that team, and we're just not seeing the best of them. And it is a shame. There's no doubt about it. Like Liam Kerr as well. I thought, like, at the start of the second half, the reason why Down were creating more and more goal chances was because he was driving, and he was creating a lot of space, driving at that Donegal defence, and then he gets substituted on the 45th minute, and it was a bit of a head scratcher, I think, from a Down point of view. It'd be interested to know what Down fans think of that, because it definitely didn't make any sense for me there. I really feel like he was one of them players that could have maybe made a bit more of a difference. I mean, Donegal would have won the game anyway, but it was one of them situations. And the patent save was actually from Corey Quinn. I have it written here. So yeah, good save in the end from Patton there. There was some suggestions it was over the line, but we've seen obviously on the replay it was never over the line. And Jared McGovern, red card for that punch on Michael Langan. I mean, it's just foolish, really. It can't be, and that's one of the things about, I've said it numerous times before for people who maybe watch this channel. No problem with defensive football. No problem. Different styles are what make fights, and it's what makes sport interesting when you have different styles going up against each other. We see it in numerous different sports. If everyone just played the same way all the time, it wouldn't be interesting. But if you are going to play the blanket defense and be defensive, I feel like you can't be making errors like that. You can't be giving away silly red cards, silly fouls, silly challenges at different points, loose passes, different things like that. You need to be more prepared in your approach if you want to at least be in the game for the final, 5 to 10 minutes. We've seen that with Cavan last year, done all the basics in the Ulster final, very well set up, kept themselves in the game, were patient on the ball, didn't try anything over the top. And then in the final home stretch, they get a goal at the end and go on to win the game. Richard Lynch says there, Kerry would have too much for Donegal. I think they would as well. I think Donegals, both sides have defensive issues, but in terms of attacking players, you would have to say that Kerry, with the likes of your Cliffords, your Paudie Clifford, maybe your Killian Spillane coming off the bench, Paul Gainey, Sean O'Shea, think you'd see Donegal having a lot of issues there. And there does seem to be a bit of an issue around that full back line. Neil McGee is getting a lot older. He's been a brilliant servant for Donegal down the years. Don't get me wrong. He's done a fantastic job for Donegal. But, and Brendan McCall's obviously newly come into the team this year as well. Picked up a yellow card at one stage. So there are issues there. But, Kerry have defensive issues as well. And I think for Donegal, if they were to beat Kerry, they would need Michael Murphy on the pitch. They would need Paddy McBrearty to be at his absolute best. Jamie Brennan would need to be fully fit and available. Maybe Oisin Gallen could step it up then as well. Pader Mogan as well. So they do have the talent. They do have the players. But I think for Donegal, their main focus now is obviously on the Derry game, then potentially maybe a Tyrone, and then either Monaghan or Armagh. It's going to be very tough for Donegal to come through those games at all. And then second of all, will they come through all those games with a fully fit team? Kerry will have played Clare, Tipperary, and possibly either Cork or Limerick. Donegal will have played bigger opposition, which will stand to them maybe going into the semi-finals. They'll be a little bit more prepared, but Kerry will be able to, a bit like what Dublin do in Leinster, they won't need to be at their absolute best against Tipperary. They can probably rotate the team at different points, make changes late on, whereas Donegal will need to be at their absolute best, especially against the likes of Tyrone or an Armagh or Monaghan. Derry, we'll have to wait and see because we're not really going off much with Derry. We're going off Division 3. We haven't seen them play. I think was it Tyrone or Donegal they played in 2019. I think in the Ulster Championship. That's the last time I can remember Derry playing a top team. Obviously they played Armagh last year, but that was it was the first game obviously after the lockdown, so it was much different, a different kind of scenario there. But so big game for Rory Gallagher, obviously gone up against his former team, of course, as well, that he managed. So it will be very interesting. But in the end, I suppose to conclude, comfortable for Donegal, seeing off down by 16 points at Pairc Esler. And I suppose, as Kevin McStay was alluding to it in commentary there, it's a shame, that unfortunately this weekend we've seen too many one-sided games. And I think the GAA really now need to, it's about time they pull their fingers out of their arse at this stage and actually, make some changes to this championship and not get rid of the provincial championships, but maybe run the provincial championships at the start of the year, January, and then, have they need to do something similar to the way hurling is, in my opinion. And that, still have your provincial championships at the start of the year, but they need to do something similar to hurling where, you have you obviously have your Lee McCarthy. It's almost graded in many ways, and I feel like that's the way it should be done. And maybe they could do something football like senior, intermediate, junior, something like that. Because watching Donegal against Down, watching Dublin against I haven't seen the score of the Wicklow Wexford game, but whoever Dublin play in that game, it's the equivalent of watching Limerick against a Tyrone and hurling, or a Limerick against a Monaghan or something like that. It's just only ever going to be one outcome, serves no one really any purpose at all. So hopefully the GAA can look at that at some stage for next year, but obviously that's a debate for another day. So yeah, Donegal get the victory, fair play to them. Derry's up next, that'll be interesting. And fair play to anyone who tuned in. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be a match reaction after the Clare Waterford game as well, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you later.